All right, we have Darren Copeland on the line. Darren, are you there?
I sure am.
Yeah, man.
Not a fun Monday.
Darren's usually the voice of reason.
I know.
He comes in here, he's nice and calm.
We're getting depressed,
he tells
bro.
us exactly what he sees. He's not yelling, he's not screaming, he's not really upset. But Darren, this morning, man.
Oh my God! No, just kidding.
Yeah.
No, the problem is that and we've seen this the last 4 losses, and one's an anomaly, two's a coincidence, three's a trend. But when defenses decide that they're not going to fall into the trap of, oh my God, Manning is the smartest guy, and we're going to react to whatever he does. Instead, we're going to play 4, drop 7. We're going to get our hands up. We know that he checks down to those short passing routes. We're going to stop those. It makes it one-dimensional. So that's the problem that the Broncos have to do. And when they go away from the run game, because they obviously have no confidence, that becomes a problem. So we've seen it before. We're going to continue to see it unless the Broncos make an attitude adjustment and just decide that, we're going to run the ball. And, there is a solution to this, and I'm not sure people want to do that, but there is a Pro Bowl running back out there who is a free agent who the Broncos could sign in addition to Richie Incognito, and that's Ray Rice, but I'm not so sure people want to see him here. But that is a solution to the running game.
Interesting. You mentioned one-dimensional, and that's been a theme to the whole broadcast so far today. So if all of us as average Joes are figuring this out, what kept the Broncos from tapping into that?
Well,
yesterday?
I think that what happens is, and when I was growing up watching football and used to hear, all these guys say, well, even if your running game isn't working, you still have to go with it because you still have to make other teams respect the fact that they're going to run. I think that's something that the Broncos have to do. The minute they abandoned it and they started passing, the Seattle, or I'm sorry, Seattle too, but St. Louis really understood that they had them where they wanted them, and they knew that they weren't going to get scored on.
Yeah. It's just too obvious.
Well, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
Well,
and if you have 4, and if you have 4 on the defensive line that can really rush the quarterback, which Miami has the same type of front 4 too, you need to worry about. That's where you're going to get problems.
Right. We talked about the Rams having a great defensive front, and if you get pressure on Peyton Manning from the inside, you force him outside. He's usually not as good. Yeah. So. And then when we get to the playoffs, that's going to be the case, is that everybody's going to be good. There's going to be no Oakland Raiders to face in the playoffs.
In the mix, yeah.
But Darren, watching other teams yesterday and seeing how they won big games in Kansas City, you talk about New England. I watched Green Bay and their kind of scheme, their offensive scheme. All these teams have one thing the Broncos don't, and that's a running game. I mean, that's the one thing that is just sticking out like a sore thumb here.
Yeah, well, you need to have balance. You need to have balance because, like I'm sure I've said before, you can have lightning, and you can be really good with the lightning, but you need a little thunder in order to sort of balance it out. You can't have one or the other. In order to be a championship team, you need to have the lightning and the thunder so you can, move from one to the other if you need it, and that's what the Broncos are lacking right now. I think C.J. Anderson might be an answer, but, you got to let him run 20 to 25 times.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like you say, don't give up on it even if he has a tough go early on. But how old is Terrell Davis now?
He's too old.
You think?
He's
probably 38, isn't he? Yeah,
he is not coming back.
I know.
But the lack of creativity in terms of the offensive scheme and what they do, I think John Elway and John Fox maybe too as well, underestimated the effect of a running game. I don't know how that happened because Elway had Terrell Davis. He knows that you need a guy to complement the passing game that can run. I think they put everything on Peyton Manning. And they're like, we have Peyton Manning. And you brought it up, that defenses are now thinking, okay, Peyton Manning's the best thing in the world, but if we figure out how to stop him, we can win the football game. The Broncos on the other side have put too much on Peyton Manning. Yeah. They're depending too much on him to win every game.
And he's put too much on himself.
One of the interesting things about that is when you think back to the Super Bowl years with Elway, is it wasn't always just Terrell Davis. I mean, afterwards you had a multitude of guys come in and be 1,000-yard rushers who really weren't anything. And I think maybe you hear also around about how running backs are being overvalued, and I think maybe this team in general, and I include John Elway in this, kind of overvalued or just kind of took away the running game, thinking it's not an emphasis, and they thought they had something in Ball and Hillman, and I think that's the way they wanted to go, and now they're realizing that maybe they need to be doing a little bit more of that, and I hope they can find that here quickly because if they don't, they could be in real trouble.
Yeah,
All right,
absolutely. Darren,
you're right, man.
Copeland, thank you.
Again, thanks.
Good thoughts. Lightning and thunder, Darren says. It's a good analysis.